they're not. We have them there on site. They're not in. I've got them
Okay.
all. I've got them all prefabbed. We're gonna hang them all today and start piping in the walls today.
Are we soldering or pressing the valves? Is it threaded option?
Yeah, but I always sweat my valves.
Yeah. Okay.
But we're gonna get them all hung, and then we can start piping to them. I'm gonna mark out today. I'm marking out all my holes for Tristan and Pono. They can come behind, blast all the holes,
Yeah. Are you
and then I'll be hanging
prefabbing?
valves.
You're prefabbing your valve, just sweating in stubs. Is that what you're doing? And then pressing
Yeah.
on.
Well, these guys are awesome. They've got all our blocking in for the shower valves
Oh, nice.
to depth, everything marked out. So off that first mark, I was able to prefab all our valves. And then yeah, we're just gonna come through, hang all the valves, and
Good.
blast our holes and start running pipe in the walls.
So they have wood studs so we can strap on, or you're putting hangers in there.
No, they got wood studs, wood blocking for us to strap to.
That's great.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, good. What are you using for clamping? The insulated rubber strut or just a flat strap copper?
I've been using all 2-hole flat straps for copper. We're
Okay.
gonna be inside the walls. We're gonna jump over the plastic. All our
Okay.
main runs are insulated in copper strap,
Okay. Hot and cold.
hot and cold. Everything
Good.
is insulated.
All right. That's what they wanted, right?
Yeah,
Do
yeah.
you have water on up to your valves?
I didn't turn it on yet. We've got to move 2 of our main valves over for the AC guy. I
Okay.
talked to him yesterday.
All right.
So that's also
We'll,
something we're kind of contending with, is just changes here and there, slight changes.
we'll talk after. Sorry, we back in the room.
Oh, okay.
All right. So if anybody wants to share any questions or things that may have come up in your group, go ahead and unmute your mic.
So in our group, David brought up a question, and it's regarding the backflow valve or the check valve in the drain line. He asked, what other locations, would a backwater valve exist? And then is there anything above ground that could identify or could like alert you that one does exist on a property or a residential property?
So backflow valves are for the drains are usually put in towards the end of the line. People also have them at the at their sink waste under the sink, vacation homes, because they don't want to come home to a full sink of water, stuff like that. There's always supposed to be an access point for a drain backwater valve. So there should be a box, but if it's not exposed, the other thing is the potential of getting stuck in there. So always go ahead,
Sorry.
Ken. Go.
So water seeks its level. You guys understand that theory, right? So if there's a drain that's, let's just say, open and low, let's say a clean out, and we're in a 2-story building, and you have a stoppage beyond the clean out, water has the potential of coming up out of that open clean out. You guys get that, right? I mean, all you drain guys understand the theory. So then if I'm on the ground floor unit, and let's just say it's a kitchen stack or kitchen main, a lot of times what we're seeing is like a backwater valve or a check valve on the kitchen line. So in the event the main backs up, water doesn't come back into the lowest point. Josh was talking about an access. Backwater valves always should have an access. Josh read something that was pretty interesting. So, and I never knew this, and it makes total sense. Let's just say you cable a drain and you go through a backwater valve. What do you think is going to happen to your cable at that point, trying to pull it back? Yeah, going to get stuck. So the and let's just say the line wasn't really backed up. You're cabling a drain going on beyond something further. The theory was run all the water inside the unit. So the valve has the potential of opening up like a check valve. So you can actually pull your cable out. I thought that was pretty neat. Did you cover that at all, Josh? That part?
No, I didn't. It was just something I was reading at the time. But yeah. So if you ever run into a backwater valve, so the trick is to run everything as much as as much as you can get access to, is run it all, and that flap is gonna just it's gonna stay open, and on now you can pull your snake out of there. Because you're gonna be, that flap is gonna come down on your snake, and it's not gonna come out. So they say run as much water as you can to get that valve to open up, so you can slide that snake out.
Would you find it also in situations where you have a sump pump that's pumping water uphill, or in a situation where you have a house that's low?
That will be a check valve, which a backwater valve is a check valve.
Right.
You know, a check valve is more of a closed sealed system. Backwater valve is accessible. So you should always be able to access your backwater valve. It's kind of like a clean out in a sense, with a swinging device that prevents water to come back from, another location, to create a potential flood in a low area. But
Right. So in the case of, let's just say, if you're there, they've got a stoppage, and you notice that the sewer's above a house, and you can naturally assume that there's a sump somewhere, then you could also naturally assume that there's that backwater valve that is going to protect that line from any water coming back the other way.
you can be almost certain that a check valve or a backwater valve will be existing somewhere. Those are very important questions. Anytime you step onto a property and you find yourself walking lower than maybe the street height, you already have to put your your defense on as to how you're going to approach this stoppage, because the questions should now all be asked. Are you on the county system? And if they are, how do you think they're getting that sewage from where you are down below grade up to the roadway? So most of the time at that point, you'd be coming off of like a sump system.
Yeah. We got any more questions? Anybody want to get out before we move on? All right, I guess I'm doing a good job then. All right, well, let's get into chapter 3. Okay, so chapter 3, we're going to get into just the light side of commercial drain waste system and vent system, because there's tons and tons and tons of things that you could get into running into a commercial side of, drain cleaning and stuff. So we're just going to run through mostly the basics on this. That was my problem with running this class, is I was getting too involved with a lot of things. And I sat down with Ken. We kind of went back and forth on how we should, address certain things, because, I wanted to make sure that, the drain guys knew as much as I could stuff into their brain. And, there's certain areas of certain things that we can probably just train as we go, because things like, drain fixture units, I mean, that could take a whole week to explain its purpose and stuff like that. So we're going to just go through it as just more of a drain cleaning class. So I was kind of going through the book, and it's kind of hard to teach what was happening in that book because it was a little bit kind of all over the place in certain areas. So I wanted to just stick to fixtures or things that you'd find, tips on how to deal with certain stoppages in a commercial environment, residential and stuff like that. The next chapters, I'm gonna stick with the topic of each chapter. I think the next one is interceptors, and then we have snakes, jetterheads, and stuff like that. So we will go through all of that. I'll stick to the topic, but we're probably gonna veer off the book a little bit. But I'm gonna still use the book in certain areas. All right. So the basic design of plumbing is the same in residential and light commercial plumbing. The three plumbing systems still exist. There's a potable water supply, a DWV system, and stormwater drainage system. And light commercial DWV systems do become more complicated because they involve multiple fixtures and oftentimes multiple stories. So if you're not intimidated by the number of fixtures or number of stories, then you should not be intimidated by light commercial DWV systems. So just explaining right there, it's pretty much the same as residential. We have toilets, they have kitchens, they have labs, they have showers. And we kind of went over all of that with the residential and how to access drains, what the drains could look like underground, just in case no one, the new guys didn't know what's, beneath that drain, what they're really snaking through, how to access certain things. So when we get into multiple fixtures, the term that's used in the plumbing term for, having a big group of fixtures is called a battery, which is a group of two or more similar adjacent fixtures that discharge into a common horizontal waste or soil branch. So battery is the name that's used for when you have multiple, so let's just say multiple toilets adjacent, which is all lined up, and they all feed into the same main line. So this would be called a battery of toilets. So you also notice that light commercial plumbing fixtures differ in design and type from residential plumbing fixtures. A urinal is commonly installed in public restrooms for men. A wall-hung water closet are often installed in commercial buildings. You will also notice the existence of flush valves to supply water for fixtures. Water closets are elongated and the seats are open in the front. Water fountains are also installed in many public places. As mentioned before, access to potable water supply systems should be handled by a licensed plumber. So this is where we're going to get into, the urinal, wall-hung toilets, flush valves, those Sloan Zerns, and just other things that we should be aware of when walking into a commercial environment. So we're going to start with walking into these high rises. So if we take a look at the high rise DWV system using hubless cast iron to better understand the light commercial DWV system in the illustration to our right. So on the left side of the illustration, you'll see 4 fixtures, 3 on one side of the wall and 1 on the opposite side of the wall. The design is similar in many ways to the DWV system mentioned earlier in residential plumbing systems. So in this picture, the water closet is hung. The fixtures still tie in or near the water closet. There is individual venting on all fixtures that is different in a separate vent down. What is different is a separate vent down the side. So many high-rise buildings have a separate vent stack to ensure equalization of atmospheric pressure throughout the system. So and the other thing it says at the end is that it's not a good idea to snake down a vent system when you're working in commercial, because if we look here, this is our vent system right here. And then this is our sewer stack line. So they have all the venting going towards this one stack. So if you're getting a backup or anything, and I know in certain situations on residential, you can, snake down the vent and get right past, if this was the vent, you could get right into the main from there. But in this situation, everything is separated from, you know, the sewer line. It's all, you're not going to get down this turn with your snake or this turn or this turn. You get all the way to the bottom, but it doesn't make sense to really try and go through a vent when dealing with a commercial situation. So next is on the illustration of DWV systems in apartment buildings and a two-story commercial building. So we notice how all systems interconnect and come together at the lowest point in the illustration. The cleanout stands for clean out, the access point for the entire system. WC stands for the water closet. KS stands for the kitchen sink, lavatory, and the bathtub. In the two illustrations, the fixtures are back to back. If both back-to-back fixtures are blocked and no other fixtures, the blockage is usually at the point where the two fixtures join. So to troubleshoot in light commercial day, you'll also have to run water in the fixtures to see which are operable. And you still need to isolate the problem or understand its magnitude. Only then you can decide the location of the problem and where to access system for cleaning purposes. So running into commercial situations is, if we look here, a lot is going to be back to back. And the reason for that is because they try and share the same wall for all the plumbing, all the venting, all the plumbing. They try and keep, it's all engineered that way for a purpose. You know, you're not going to have, you know, a bathtub here and a bathtub out. It just, you know, it'll work, but you know, it's just causing more than what needs to be done. So they try and keep it all together. So be aware that you will be running into back-to-back situations. And just a look of what a back-to-back sink is. So if we look here on this sink, if this sink is backed up, I mean, it's also good to know when walking into a unit or a condo is to kind of recognize the footprint in the unit you're in, because they're all going to look the same next door, upstairs, in most cases. So try and always be aware if this sink is backed up, you know, you do your whole thing, running everything else if it doesn't get affected. But we're gonna talk about this a little more. Hold on, can't get this thing out. So the footprint here, each unit's gonna look pretty much the same in every unit. So this would be the back-to-back toilet is on this section. I was trying to get a better picture of this. We have our showers here, and they're also back-to-back. And then we have our labs, which are side by side. And then each, if you look at the footprint, each is the same. This is a 2-bedroom unit, but if we look at the unit next door, it's pretty much the same as this layout here. And it should look the same on each floor above, unless, you know, the only thing that's really going to change is the style everybody has. Somebody will have a different sink. I mean, some will probably move their sink a little bit, but the drain is always going to be in that area because everybody shares the same drain. So we're going to take a call here. Hello, thank you for calling Allen's Plumbing. We provide only the best plumbing services 24/7 in Hawaii. How may we help you today? So we have Bruce, his unit's backed up at Honoakai, unit 203 in the Konea building. So we already went through this. We show up to the unit, it's on the second floor. So this should already determine what we're dealing with when walking into a unit is we know we're going to a condominium. It's unit 203. So we're already assuming it's on the second floor. So how we determine our backups is the same way we walked through earlier, is first look to see which fixture is holding back water. Run water and other fixtures around to see if anything's backed up, to see if it causes a rise in water level in the fixture that is holding water. If water rises, we could be dealing with a lateral backup. If water does not rise, we know we're dealing with a fixture branch line. Ken talked about the theory of water level. Everything is going to sit, water is always going to be level. You know, if the clog is down here in this picture, it's below, you know, the toilet line. So when you start running all these fixtures, you should see a rise in the tub. You should see a rise in the toilet also. But if, you know, if the stoppage was here, you know, running all these things wouldn't affect this tub. So you just see a rise in the tub when you run the tub. And same thing when you flush this toilet, you're not going to see it come up in there. So just remember, water always has a level to it. It always finds level. Hey. Oh, crap. Hold on, sorry. So one way to picture it, I mean, for the newer guys, is that you're just pretty much dealing with 40 homes in one building. So it's pretty much the same as dealing with residential, except everybody shares the same sewer line, which is this here, which is it's a vertical line that each home shares in that building. So we got to our call. We're on the second floor here. Let me just get the pointer out. We're on our second floor. We see water in the bathtub. So the first thing you want to try and always ask is if there's anybody in that unit or whoever contacted you about it, is does the water overflow when you're not using the drains? And the reason why you ask that question is because everybody shares the same sewer line coming down the wall. Nobody has their own branch line coming down. So you got to remember there's people above them. If it's more than a two-story building. So you ask the question, and then either, you know, if it's, does the water overflow when you're not using it? If it's a yes, then you know that we got to go up higher or above it. We got to start letting people know to stop using the water, because, you know, now it's going to start coming out of the drains in this person on the second floor's unit. So it's crucial you get maintenance or whoever you need to get involved, property managers, to get into the units above to let them know stop using water. Because,
can I make a comment?
Yes, of course.
You know, recently we deal with these situations, and a lot of times, you know, the people above, they don't care what's happening down below. It's not their unit. They're not flooding. They don't care. Property manager, building maintenance, they may not understand the severity. If you're kind of nonchalant in these situations, they're going to assume that it's not a big deal to keep running water. You have to make it a point to have them understand the severity of what's happening at that moment. Me and Josh, we went up on a job that where the ground floor unit was flooded with sewage. And the severity of the job, I don't really think the property manager or person in charge there really understood the magnitude of what was happening. And so now you got cleanup and all this other stuff that's going on. You have to make them aware to the point where before you even start, you know, have them sign something stating, hey, look, you guys are going to keep this going on. We are not liable or responsible for the flooding and the damage that comes from this point forward. And if they gave you the authority, shut the main down, shut it down. Let them deal with whatever's happening as far as the calls and the discomfort of, you know, people not having water. That is not the concern at the time. A sewer spill is a concern. That's kind of biological. That's fecal matter. That's a lot of toxic waste that is now coming out of a drain that should be in a contained system being disposed properly. Now it's coming out of a fixture, flooding into to a unit at a high rate. And the more units you have above, and you guys on Oahu, man, you guys know this very, very well. You guys got some 40-story buildings out there. And if ground floor is backed up, that is a fucking mess. I mean, it's a serious problem. So you guys have to really, really be aware of what's happening. I've gone to the point where I'll take the rap. I'll go and just shut water. I don't even give a shit, because it's easier for me to explain to the customer how I save them a bunch of grief by shutting water, letting them deal with maybe some phone calls versus a flooding unit and not being able to really contain or deal with a situation that could get greater or bigger. I just want to make a mention of that, because we've gone on jobs sometimes and wondering, how did it get to this point? Who didn't convey or give the message that this is a serious matter? And that's our job. You guys understand how serious things can get and how fast it become a problem. You know, so just make sure you guys are giving them that information as quick as you can.
So can I ask a question? And this has to do with some of the call takers and the dispatchers that are on this call.
Yep.
Or let's just say they take a call, they recognize it's a high rise, they recognize that it's the bottom floor unit. Would it be prudent then for them to ask the question, hey, is there a resident manager, somebody on property that can be responsible for getting us access to multiple units before my technician gets there? Or can they be available? Can you find out that information so that when they get there, if they need to notify multiple units just based upon what's going on, that we can at least have that prepped and ready?
Yeah, and another one is just make sure they're ready to shut water when the technician is there. Or if listen, if they're in a ground floor unit backup and they're already seeing water coming over the water table, let's just say a bathtub's overflowing and no one's in the unit. If you hear that message, tell them shut the water. You know, if they have the ability to, not authority to. Because I'll tell you what, if I'm the owner of that building or that stack or the unit down below or anything, and I find out that you have the authority to shut the water and you chose not to because of, you know, you didn't want to inconvenience all the people up above, dude, I'd fire you because you made a horrible decision. You know, the thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars for the cleanup and, you know, that goes into this thing, it's not worth the poor decision making at that point. So if us as the professional can let them know how serious this is, you know, it would maybe help somebody understand, you know, the severity. And especially when our technician goes on site now they're looking at the technician like, look, you're here to save my ass, you know, versus, oh, this is just a stoppage, you know, blah blah blah. You know, to me, there's levels of I would say there's levels of calls that you go to. And every time you add a floor, the level gets higher. You know, you start doing multiplication. You know, when you start talking about what floor is the problem and how many floors above me are backed up. You know, I think on Maui, the tallest building we have here, what is like 12-story? I mean, do we have anything more than 12-story?
No, and
I don't
that's
think so.
huge. That's huge
Yeah.
to us.
Well, yeah, here it is. And you know, on you guys on Oahu, 40 stories is not uncommon. I mean, it's like every other building in town. So, you know, it's still though, the potential is there. 2-story, you can have problems. We just went to one where it was a 2-story building, but 12 units attached to this 2-story building, the mains backed up. Everybody's flooding the one unit down below. You know, so it's one of those things where you have to provide I would say the intensity of the situation. You look at the magnitude of the call. You know, when the customer's trying to explain, you know, oh, ground floor unit, water's coming out of the tub or toilet and it's backing up, no one's even in the unit. You know, at that moment, maybe, hey, why don't you guys shut the water? You know, and at least because you'd be surprised how that doesn't even come to some people's minds. to shut the water, control the situation. So when the technician gets there, it's not a total damn disaster. Try and clear a stoppage when you got, inches and inches of water everywhere. And now you're trying to navigate through this nonsense, trying to get to a clean out or pull a toilet, or try pull a toilet in a situation like that. Go ahead. You need a snorkel to start your damn job, and it's not happening. Or you go to the unit above where it's not flooded, right?
Right.
So these are things you guys got to think about. It's what Josh is explaining and showing is multi-level backups and how to navigate through it as quick as possible.
Yeah,
Does
yeah,
that
and
help?
it's just making yourself aware that everybody's sharing the same main coming out of their unit. So there's people that, and like Ken said, people are not going to care that this guy's backing up as long as they can flush their toilets above you. They're just going
Or
to keep
even
going to
know.
town.
You
Yeah, or
might
they
not
won't
even
know.
know.
Yeah,
You get 3 washing machines dump at the same time. You got a mainline stoppage. You're on the ground floor. You got a toilet pulled or something. Oh boy.
yeah, and it's especially if you're like, let's just say we were on the 5th floor, and 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 above them is flushing on them. That 5th floor is gonna, that water is gonna come through on each floor below, and now you have just a huge, whether it's a insurance claim, lawsuits, and then just stuff like that. We gotta make sure that we're at least trying to help the situation when walking into a problem like that, because you're not just saving level 5, you're saving 1, 2, 3, and 4 at the same time. And we just got to make people aware of the the um the whole job that it's that we're gonna do whatever it takes to get this to stop at whatever. I know people are on vacation, but it's a serious situation. It's not just water, like Ken said. It's sewer water.
Yeah, I think it's easier for them to maybe give somebody a credit or a discount on the unit. If it was an inconvenience, the water got shut off, blah, 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 you missed dinner, whatever, versus now I got to pay thousands and thousands of dollars for insurance claims and shit because of a flood. If you could prevent something like that, you'd be saving somebody a lot of money. And I'll guarantee you, your intensity will allow them to want to call the company again, because your intensity shows that you actually give a shit.
Yeah,
You don't go into those situations lightheartedly and be like, well, it's just a stoppage. I've seen it before. Okay, yeah, whatever. It's just sewage coming out of a toilet. No, that's not how you approach that. You approach that where you're staring at the guy's eyes and saying, shut the fucking water down right now, and tell everybody above here that they can't use water. Start slamming on doors, not knocking on doors, slamming on doors, telling people to shut it off. And it's now your job to figure out, where am I going to clear the stoppage from? If it's boiling out of that 1st floor, then you're running to the 2nd floor to go pull a toilet, so you're not flooding, so you can go clear the main. Your job at that point as a technician is to go and resolve this problem as quick as possible, so you minimize the damage.
right.
Yeah.
So the other thing is, when dealing with certain, so we kind of went over if it was a main line in the stack, how to deal with that. You'd go to so if this unit is overflowing, we know to go to the unit above and try and snake down this drain and try and clear it through here. So the other thing I want you guys to make yourself aware of is kind of, stand on the floor and look above you. How high is that ceiling? So the height of that ceiling to the floor level is all that you're, if it was just this branch line that was backing up, you don't want to send, your snake out 100 feet. You've already confirmed that, that the units aren't affecting this unit. So I know I'm not going to go more than, I'll always gauge it as 8 feet, 8 to 10 feet. So I'll know like how close I am to the wall. It's 3 feet to the wall, 3 feet to the wall, and then I go another 10 feet. Because what happens is we run into back-to-back situations again. And dealing with those also, if you're backed up, and we've had this happen one time, somebody pulls a toilet, they just start going to town with their snake, and they end up burying their whole snake. And then, technician walks away, goes to get some other things, and then he notices this huge ruckus going on next door. And he goes next door and finds out that some lady's claiming that somebody vandalized her bathroom. That there's what happened was the technician went through that toilet, pulled the toilet, went through the drain on that toilet, and just started hammering his snake down that drain, and ended up busting the toilet on the other side of the wall in the other unit. And it just did some loops in that bathroom, and just tore the bathroom apart. And nobody knew it was done by the snake. But just making yourself aware. I mean, always know that. I mean, always try and just use the common sense that if it's just this unit backing up, you don't have to go more than 6 to 10 feet. I mean, you can gauge it yourself on how you want to see it. There's no reason for you to bury 100 feet of snake into a drain from a certain floor that's only a branch line. The other thing people might claim is I hear Rose. Okay.
Let me close the door.
But anyways, the other things is dealing with stoppages, and I was gonna go over this later. Is there's always a clean out on the bottom floor. If you ever gotta if it's just the downstairs that's backing up, but always make yourself aware that one unit is not all that's you're dealing with. You're dealing with multiple units at the same time, dealing with this one unit. Multiple people. You're gonna have groups of people. They're just gonna be around like, hey, what's going on? And just voice, hey, this guy's backing up. If you're above the units, help out. Don't use the water, stuff like that. But yeah, the snaking and everything, and the other thing is
Josh, go back to your comment about branch. I have a question. In code, how long is a trap arm?
No more than 5 feet.
Okay. And then, and like you said, if we're measuring out a unit, and let's just say we can already see and assume the distance, and you're no more than 20 feet, what would you do if I cable the drain, I pull it back, didn't clear the stoppage? What's the next protocol? Let's just say, I know I'm 20 feet. I went out, let's just say 25 just to be safe because of turns and some slack in the pipe, maybe 30, whatever.
Yeah.
I pull back and it's not clear.
So as if nothing else is affected, so say you're on the second floor, you've tried to snake this thing 20 feet, you go downstairs and you try and make sure that maybe you didn't push the stoppage out more. If the bottom is still not affected, the upstairs is still not affecting you, then it means that there's either a toilet paper stoppage or something that you're not able to get through. So comes to trying to change the head you have on your snake.
Maybe going up the vent.
Or you can cut open the wall and go down the vent, stuff like that.
I hear the comment a lot of times, oh, I couldn't clear it with my cable, so I went and I recommended the jetter. Does this make sense to you?
It doesn't make sense because a snake is stronger than the jetter no matter what. The jetter is just used to push things that are loose, loosen up. If you do have a toilet paper, it does have the potential of loosening it up, but the snake is stronger to me than the jetter. You're gonna crank on something with this cable and you're gonna get more out of it than using a jetter.
So I'll add to that. Sorry, Justin, I didn't cut you off, but
no worries.
But the cable will allow you to get around turns versus the jetter, especially when you're backed up. If you can't clear a drain with a cable, unless it's a full-on grease stoppage, I'm not talking about a grease stoppage. I'm not talking about a drain that is 100% packed with paper or some kind of matter like that. I'm talking about a basic stoppage. We hear it so often. Oh, I couldn't clear it with my cable, so I went and got the jetter. that makes 100% no sense to me, especially when you couldn't get around a turn or couldn't get the cable out far enough. There's no way you're going to get the jetter out farther than you are a cable.
Right.
You-
So whenever
I don't mean on distance because the length of the cable. I saw Connie's face. If you have a 100-foot cable, it's the same thing. I get it, but I'm talking about if I couldn't get my cable out 50 feet, you're not going to get your jetter out 60 feet. Doesn't work that way.
right,
You know,
right.
it does propel itself, but at the same time, you have to figure these things out. In older homes, older plumbing, you're dealing with sharper turns and sharper, trying to navigate around fittings that are not approved anymore. And so navigating around them a little tricky. So do you sit there and grind away and try and break your brain on how to get around, or do you go and sell a clean out or be creative and go find another access so you can get down the drain? This is where you have to be wiser as a drain cleaner and start utilizing your experience. Don't sit there and grind all day on a clean out or a stoppage, where now versus that you have options where you can say, hey, look, we need to open up the ceiling. I went through this thing 3 times. I tried, especially, and show the guy, you know, what you're trying to accomplish. Get to the next step. Every drain job shouldn't be clear with a cable. At some point, sometimes you may need an excavator to go clear it, but the cable machine is the first step. You know, get to the point where if you can't get around something, use the next method to open it up or create an access for you.
Yeah, then we're all provided with multiple heads and certain things to use on our snakes. So I've even walked up to jobs where guys are, telling me, he's like, oh, I couldn't clear it. Yes, I'm gonna have to use my jetter. And then they leave Lahaina, which is an hour away, to get a jetter or whatever. But this was back then. And when we first started the drinker, they were kind of new. And I get to the job with him and I asked him, I was like, did you even try and snake? He's like, no, I told him we got to jet him. I was like, he didn't even take his snake out because, and that in my mind is that they're not, either they're not trained or they're too lazy to deal with something like that. Yeah, the snake is heavy and whatever, but the snake does the job. I take the snake up on the jetter trying to clear a stoppage before using a jetter anyway, because they're trying to get the bigger ticket or whatever, which is not the right way to think out there in the field. Your job is to bring the the normality back to what's to the home there. You're not going to leave this person with a backed up drain and not try whatever you can try, and stuff like that. And we have so much support here where you guys can call us and be like, hey, did you try this? Because not just me or Ken, but we have multiple guys in this company that we can all refer to as to what we can try next. I don't have a jetter with me. What else can I try? And there's certain jobs also like root intrusions. You're not going to get your snake through that, of course, but the jetter does help get through. The jetter is the one that it's probably going to get you through all that tissue and, blow it out the little space that you have between the pipe and the roots that are in there. So I can see in a situation like that. But if you're dealing with just a normal stoppage and you can't clear it, and then you're thinking the jetter is going to clear it, you got to make sure that you've taken all steps in, trying to assess this problem. There was a comment in the chat about, snake goes through grease and tissue. Yeah, it goes through it, but it also has a potential of breaking it all up. You're gonna break grease more than you're gonna. So the jetter is not gonna really break the grease until it's got an access to get through it, and it's not gonna blow itself through. So you can grind it with a snake to get through that grease ball, and then you use the jetter to try to get it off the walls or push it down the drain, stuff like that.
So I always I understand the difference on jetting and cabling, and I'll tell you, the cable creates flow. So once you have flow, and I don't care how small the flow is, but once you can relieve the water, the jetter now becomes necessary. Again, there's steps to everything we do. So not to discredit the jetter at all. The cable is not going to be good at removing everything within the circumference of the pipe. The cable's purpose is to create flow. Once you have flow, now you recommend the jetter. That's the importance of the jetter. When we're jetting exterior on a stoppage, let's just say we understand it's a bigger line. I ain't gonna go cable this. I get it. But you're cabling from an open drain where water can actually come out. You're not in a closed drain or inside a unit where you're creating potential damage. You don't want to be jetting inside a unit where the drain is still backed up, and now you have all these gallons of water that's going to be coming out of the drain. It's got to go somewhere, and now you're creating a disaster. So be careful of how you approach jobs with jetters versus cables. And just understand the place of the cable versus the jetter.
And I was lucky enough to be a witness to that. We had this crazy guy who used to work for us, and he did whatever it took to clear a drain, whether it flooded their unit or not. He got the job done, but it was not the right way to do it. But I was able to learn from it and be like, learn how to work around it. So again, we have the support that if any of our new guys have questions on how to deal with certain things, I'm always answering my phone and letting you guys know I'll show up to your job if I have to. And Ken is the same way also. If other technicians are not around you. But yeah, we're at 8:00, so we'll move on from here, and then we will talk about more of our moving into this commercial side of things, which will take us into dealing with multiple fixtures, like in a public restaurant, department stores, malls, and stuff like that, on how to deal with urinals, wall hung toilets, and stuff like that. So this is where we'll be at next week. So again, congratulations, Mr. JP, on the 5-star reviews, man. You're doing a great job. Everybody's doing a great job out there, but we just wanted to recognize you on that, the 8 5-star reviews in 3 weeks. Good job, man. And thank you everybody for being here today. Sorry, we've been kind of crazy busy here on Maui, and we will try and keep these classes going. But everybody have a good day, and see you Thursday at Connie's meetings.
Thank you, Josh. Appreciate it.
All right. Hey guys.
Thank you, Josh.
All right.
Josh.
Thanks, Josh.
Thank you.
Shoots.
Shoots, brothers. Have a good one.
Shoots, brother.
Straight up Oahu.